Max Verstappen just delivered one of the most dominant wins ever seen at the Nürburgring, nearly a full minute ahead. Flawless execution. Zero mistakes on the most dangerous track in motorsport. And then, hours later, he was disqualified. Not for crashing. Not for breaking a rule on track. For something no one saw. Something hidden. For extra tires. That's it. 24 allowed. 28 used. And those 4 tires? Completely erased a perfect race. But here's where it gets even more shocking. This wasn't a protest. No rival complained. No one noticed during the race. This was discovered through internal data. Barcode tracking. Post-race inspection. Cold, undeniable evidence. And the moment officials saw it, there was no discussion. No second chance. Victory deleted. Results rewritten. History changed. And what this reveals about how races are really decided today will completely change the way you watch Formula One forever. Subscribe now, because the truth behind this is far bigger than just 4 tires. At first, nothing about that race felt unusual. That's what makes this so unsettling. Because if you were watching live, you saw dominance. Clean. Controlled. Almost effortless. Verstappen wasn't fighting anyone. He wasn't under pressure. He was managing the race. And that's a completely different kind of performance. Lap after lap, the gap kept growing. Not in sudden bursts. But steadily. Quietly. The kind of pace that doesn't attract attention. It removes it. Because when a driver looks that comfortable, people stop asking questions. They assume everything is under control. And that's exactly what happened. No one questioned the strategy. No one questioned the consistency. No one asked why the car never seemed to struggle. But here's where things start to feel different. Because the Nürburgring is not a place for perfect races. It punishes everyone. The track is too long. Too aggressive. Too unpredictable. Tires degrade. Grip disappears. Performance drops. That's normal. That's expected. But Verstappen's race didn't follow that pattern. The performance stayed stable. Almost flat. No visible drop-off. No phase where the car looked vulnerable. And at the time, that looked like excellence. Now, it looks like something else. Because tires are the limiting factor in endurance racing. They define how hard you can push. How long you can stay out. How much risk you can take. And every team is forced to manage that limit. Carefully. Constantly. So when one car appears to operate without that pressure, it changes everything. Because having access to more tires isn't just about grip. It's about freedom. Freedom to push earlier. Freedom to recover faster. Freedom to reset performance whenever needed. And over a race that lasts hours, that freedom becomes power. But here's the key detail. This advantage doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't show up as one big moment. It hides in consistency. In small gains. In the absence of struggle. And that's why no one saw it. Because nothing looked wrong. Everything looked perfect. Until you understand what was really happening underneath. Because while other teams were managing decline, stretching their tires, adapting to limitations, one car didn't have to. It was operating in a different window. A safer one. A faster one. A more controlled one. And no one realized. Because the difference wasn't visible. It was buried in the data. Hidden behind numbers no one checks during the race. And by the time those numbers were reviewed, it was already too late. The race had been won. The story had been written. The celebration had already happened. But it wasn't the real story. Because what looked like a flawless performance was already under question. And the moment officials started digging deeper, everything began to unravel. And this is where everything starts to collapse. Not on track. Not in front of cameras. But in a quiet room, where races are truly decided. Because once the cars returned to the paddock, the real process began. Post-race inspection. Now this is the part most fans never see. There are no lights. No commentators. No drama. Just engineers, officials, and data. Cold, precise, unforgiving data. Every component is checked. Every number is verified. Every detail is compared against the rules. And in this case, they weren't even looking for something dramatic. They were looking for consistency. For alignment. For proof that everything matched what was allowed. And that's when they saw it. A number that didn't belong. At first, it's just a discrepancy. A small difference on a screen. Easy to overlook. But in motorsport, small differences don't stay small. Because every tire is tracked individually. Not in sets. Individually. Each one has an identity. A barcode. A record tied to that specific car. So when officials reviewed the logs, there was no confusion. No estimation. Just a clear, undeniable count. 24 allowed. 28 used. And in that exact moment, the race was already lost. Even if no one had said it out loud yet. Because here's the reality. You cannot reverse this. You cannot remove the advantage. You cannot pretend those extra tires didn't change the race. They already had. Across every stint. Across every decision. Across the entire 4 hours. So the officials didn't need to debate. They didn't need interpretation. They only needed confirmation. And once that confirmation came, there was only one possible outcome. Disqualification. Not a time penalty. Not a warning. Complete removal. Because this kind of violation breaks the foundation of the race itself. And here's the part that makes it even more intense. While fans were still celebrating, while highlights were spreading, while the story of dominance was being told, inside that room, the real story had already been written. A document prepared. A decision finalized. And when it was finally released, it didn't feel dramatic. It felt instant. Because in 1 second, Verstappen was the winner. And in the next, he didn't exist in the results. Gone. Erased completely. And just like that, another team inherited victory. Without a fight. Without a final lap. Just a correction. Now here's the detail that changes everything. There was no resistance. No appeal. No argument from the team. They accepted it. Immediately. And that tells you something critical. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a gray area. This was undeniable. Which leads to the question that no one can ignore. How does something this controlled go wrong? Because tire usage is one of the most monitored elements in endurance racing. It's planned before the race. Tracked during every stint. Verified after every stop. There are systems designed to prevent exactly this. Multiple layers. Multiple checks. And yet, all of them failed. Not at once. But step by step. Quietly. Until one number crossed the limit. And that number? Destroyed everything. Because in modern motorsport, winning isn't about being the fastest. It's about being perfect. Every lap. Every decision. Every detail. And if one of those fails, even slightly, the victory was never really yours. And this is where the story stops being about a mistake. And starts becoming something much bigger. Because what happened here didn't just remove a victory. It exposed how fragile every victory really is. Think about it. For 4 hours, everything worked perfectly. The pace. The strategy. The execution. Nothing broke. Nothing failed. From the outside, it looked like total control. But underneath, one detail was wrong. Just one. And that was enough. Because in modern motorsport, there is no margin for error. Not even small ones. Not even invisible ones. And that creates a completely different reality. Because now, teams are not just racing each other. They are racing the system. Every lap, they are balancing performance against compliance. Every decision is not just about going faster. It's about staying within limits that cannot be crossed. And those limits are absolute. There is no negotiation with data. No second chance once it's confirmed. And that's what makes this situation so powerful. Because it proves something most fans don't realize. The race you watch is only half the story. The other half happens after. In silence. Where everything is checked. Verified. Questioned. And if anything doesn't align, the entire result disappears. Not partially. Completely. Now here's where it becomes even more uncomfortable. Because this wasn't a scandal. There was no outrage. No dramatic confrontation. Just a quiet correction. A dominant win, removed with a document. And that silence matters. Because it shows how normal this has become. How every team understands. This can happen to them. At any time. All it takes is one number. One oversight. One moment where something slips through. And everything is gone. Which leads to the most important realization of this entire story. Verstappen didn't lose on track. He lost in the system. And that changes everything. Because it forces you to rethink what winning actually means. Is it being the fastest? Or is it surviving every layer of verification that comes after? Because in this case, those were not the same thing. And maybe they never have been. So the next time you watch a race, and someone dominates from start to finish, pulls away, makes it look effortless, remember this. You might be watching a real victory. Or, you might be watching a result that hasn't been tested yet. Because in modern motorsport, the checkered flag doesn't end the race. It just begins the final decision. And this is where everything finally connects. Because if you go back to the beginning, to that moment when Verstappen crossed the line, everything felt decided. The gap was there. The performance was undeniable. The result looked final. But it wasn't. It was provisional. Temporary. Fragile. And that's the word that defines this entire story. Fragile. Because what this revealed is that even the most dominant performance can be built on something that doesn't hold. Not because of intention, not because of cheating in the traditional sense, but because in modern racing, the system doesn't care how it happened. Only that it happened. 24 allowed. 28 used. That's all it sees. That's all it needs. And once that line is crossed, everything else becomes irrelevant. Now here's the part that stays with you. Because this doesn't just apply to one race. It applies to every race, every team, every weekend. All of them are operating on the edge, pushing limits, testing boundaries, maximizing performance in every possible area. And when you operate that close to the limit, mistakes are not dramatic. They are microscopic. A number, a count, a detail buried in a system. But those are the mistakes that matter most. Because those are the ones that decide everything. Not the overtakes, not the pit stops, not even the final lap. The details. Invisible, silent, absolute. And that leads to the final realization. The one that changes how you see the entire sport. Victory is no longer a moment. It's a process. It doesn't happen when the checkered flag waves. It happens hours later. After every check is complete. After every number is confirmed. After the system says, yes. And until that moment, no win is real. No result is final. No dominance is secure. Because what happened at the Nürburgring wasn't just a disqualification. It was proof. Proof that the most important part of the race is the part no one sees. And maybe that's the real question this leaves behind. Not who was fastest. Not who deserved it. But something much more unsettling. How many victories have only existed until someone looked closer?